Hey, everybody. It is Thursday, May 14th. You're listening to the Mo News Podcast. I'm Mosheh Menendez.
And I'm Jill Wagner. This is the place where we bring you just the facts.
And we read all the news and read between the lines so you don't have to. Some of us from New York. Her name is Jill. Some of us from Indiana. My name is Mosheh. Jill just spent the second day here in Indianapolis.
A tough assignment you're on, Mosheh. Sampling all sorts of candy and chocolate.
Yeah.
Rough life.
Rough life. I am bringing back samples of a variety of the new snacks, chocolate, candy on display here at the Sweet and Snacks Expo in Indianapolis, Indiana. Jill, I think I'm going to make this an annual after doing my first Sweet and Snacks Expo. I like it. It's my type of convention. A lot of samples. This is the annual expo, folks, for all the big brands, all the small brands, like mom and pop candy makers or popcorn makers or nut mix makers out there, but then also the Ferrero Rochers and the Mondelezes and the Nestle's and all of those. Jill, I discovered yesterday as I made my way through the convention hall, and there's like 1,300 different displays, that the good folks at Reese's have a froyo machine. And so that was like a really clutch find for me yesterday. And they're like, what would you like on your frozen yogurt? And they have all their candies and chocolates and stuff. And that was very nice. But we will get into later in this podcast the trend lines I'm seeing, the important journalistic work I'm doing at the Sweet and Snacks Expo.
That's right. You're not just taste testing.
Right. I'm doing journalism. I'm doing dessert journalism, Jill.
There is journalism happening. Also want to quickly mention happy birthday to my father. Happy birthday, Dad. A loyal Mo News listener, Mosheh.
We each have people in our families who actually listen to the podcast. We each have family members who don't listen to the podcast.
Yep.
And your dad is one of our listeners. So thank you, Warren Wagner.
Every day, it gets him through his treadmill workout.
Let's crank things up for you, Warren, as we hit headlines here.
Put that incline
Let's bring up the incline. Yeah, there we go.
We should do that actually I'm sure other people are listening to this on their walks. Yeah. Every once in a while, we should be like, all right, this is the time, step it up a notch. If you're at a 3, go up to a 4. Okay, let's get to some headlines here. President Trump on the first overseas trip of his second term, and no shortage of headlines as he finishes his first stop in Saudi Arabia and heads to Qatar today.
Jill, is there ever a shortage of headlines coming out of this White House, whether they're on the road or at home? The answer is no.
Good point.
A lot of headlines. It's a day that ends in Y, everybody, at the White House.
Also, not unexpected, some bombshells from new books about Joe Biden and who knew what and when about his deteriorating health.
And what you guys are telling me about the Biden revelations. In short, if you're on the left, you don't want us to talk about it. If you're on the right, you're not surprised by any of this, and the media got this all wrong.
The latest at Newark Airport, United is warning flyers that there could be some reduced service throughout the summer. Some new numbers about inflation. The cost of eggs is finally coming down, but home prices still high. To Los Angeles, where the Menendez brothers are now eligible for parole.
Yeah, some big news we've been waiting for a while here. For the duo, now 3.5 decades into their prison sentence.
What AMC is doing to get more people into the theater.
They're trying their best, Jill. We'll tell you about some of the movies you can expect this summer.
And Mosheh at the Sweet and Snacks Expo in Indianapolis with all of the latest snacking trends.
2 words, Jill. Dubai chocolate. It's all the rage.
And Mosheh is on this day in history.
Jill, on this day in history, we said goodbye to Pacey, Joey, Dawson, Jerry, Elaine, and Cosmo. Not all one show. Those are multiple shows. But big series finale day for some iconic television.
I don't want to wait
for our lives,
for my lives to be over. All right, to the news. President Trump is on his first foreign trip of his second term. And like his first term, Saudi Arabia was his first stop, a sign that Saudi Arabia is emerging as a stabilizing force in the region. Also, that President Trump, very concerned with economic deals. It all comes as Saudi Arabia looking to diversify its economy.
Yeah, Saudi Arabia realizes it's got to pivot away from oil as we all move into the new energy space. And so it's figuring out what it should be investing in. Trump and the Crown Prince, good buddies there. And so while presidents typically go to Europe or Canada for their first visit, Trump says, no, My first visit to Saudi Arabia.
And one of the many headlines and a major change in policy, Trump telling a packed auditorium in Riyadh that the U.S. will be lifting sanctions against Syria. Syria has been designated a state sponsor of terrorism by the U.S. government since 1979. There have been additional sanctions imposed on the country in 2004, then again in 2011, after then President Bashar al-Assad's regime launched a brutal crackdown on anti-government protests. But then back in December of 2024, anti-Assad militia groups toppled the Assad regime, which had been weakened by Israeli military action in the region. Syria's new president, Ahmed al-Sharaa, is a former al-Qaeda member. He is the leader of a group known as HTS, which stormed Damascus, ending the 54-year rule of the Assad family. He now says he is reformed. He is currently leading the country's transitional government.
He wears a suit now, Jill.
He doesn't look that comfortable in the suit. I don't know if you've seen pictures of him.
He's going with the suit. There was some video put out recently of him and his deputy playing pickup basketball. So they're definitely going for like a, hey, we're a friendlier sort of regime here in Syria these days.
So why did Trump lift the sanctions? Well, one of the big reasons is because it was a request from Saudi Arabia, Qatar, and Turkey, who feel like if Syria has a strong economy, it is much less of a destabilizing influence for the entire region, the entire Arab world. President Trump saying, quote, "There is a new government that will hopefully succeed. I say, good luck, Syria. Show us something special." Moshe, not only that, but Trump could be potentially meeting with al-Sharaa today. Give us a little background on this guy, besides for the new suits and the pickup basketball games.
Yeah, so this guy came out of Syria and, like many in the region, was drawn into Iraq in the early 2000s as the U.S. invaded Iraq. And he was like, let's join the insurgency. I'm going to fight these Americans. So he joined the insurgency, battled and sought to kill and push Americans out of Iraq. And then he was imprisoned in Iraq, along with a lot of other rebels, insurgents, and fighters. And that's really all I got to know each other in this American prison in Iraq. Al-Sharaa, a very young guy, meets a guy named Baghdadi. And they're all just like angry. They're being held out in the desert in 130-degree temps. And they're like, we're going to get these Americans one day. And then America hands over the prison to the Iraqis a few years later. And the Iraqis are like, we can't manage these prisons. Everyone out. And so these guys come out. And so al-Sharaa goes back to Syria and he's like, listen, I'm going to start the Al-Qaeda franchise for Syria. Franchises take on a different form in the Middle East in that era. He's not starting a restaurant. He's starting a terrorist affiliate. So he starts the Al-Qaeda franchise. He's still buddies with al-Baghdadi, his friend from prison. But he's like, listen, I think we should focus on the region. And Baghdadi's like, no, we're going to focus on the world. And so Baghdadi is like, okay, I'm going to go do my own thing. We're going to call it ISIS. Meanwhile, al-Sharaa starts HTS. It's the Al-Qaeda affiliate in Syria. And so he gets put on the terrorist list. He's doing a whole bunch of attacks. You know, this guy is a jihadi Islamist rebel that has been made more and more extreme in prison. Very quickly thereafter, you have the dictator in Syria, Assad, who you mentioned, and he's leading Syria in a very cutthroat manner in the same way his father did. Keep in mind, Syria for 50 years now has been led by an Assad, either the father or the son. And so ultimately the civil war unfolds because Assad won't give up power. And so all these rebel groups, some America likes and some America doesn't like al-Sharaa's Al-Qaeda affiliate, basically go to war here with Assad. And that's a civil war that has lasted more than a decade, has destroyed that country, has led to more than 10 million refugees, and has taken what is a beautiful country in Syria and destroyed it. And that's what leads us to what unfolded in the fall as al-Sharaa's group, despite the fact that America is not so into the Al-Qaeda affiliate winning the war, leads the rebels into Damascus. And so when you win the war, you get to become the leader. And so al-Sharaa, who, by the way, has been referred to as al-Golani, al-Jalani, that's his nom de guerre. Some of these guys have multiple names, but al-Sharaa is his name. And so ultimately he becomes the leader. He's the new Islamist jihadi leader. But he realizes that he's got a $10 million bounty on his head from the American government, that he's deemed a terrorist and the head of a terrorist group by the American government. So he's been spending the past few months being like, okay, guys, I'm in charge now. Don't worry about us. I'm cool. You can do business with me. And that's what he's tried to convince his Arab neighbors. And it says, like, let's give Syria a chance here. We've been immersed in a 15-year civil war. We've had dictators for 50 years. We need support from the outside world. so this place doesn't continue to unfold into civil war after civil war. Because keep in mind, ISIS is still there. There's other conflicts there. Turkey is sponsoring various groups there. There's Kurdish rebels there. There's a Druze community, a different community there that the Israelis are supporting. So there's still conflict happening in Syria, not at the level of before. But al-Shara is like, listen, give me a chance. I'm putting on a suit. I'm going to shake some hands. Interestingly, Jill, recently he met with a U.S. representative and said, you know what would be great in Damascus? Trump Tower Damascus. And so he's been basically trying to make a play to the Americans saying, drop the whole I'm a terrorist, drop the whole I run a terrorist group. It's time for a new Syria and a new relationship. Jill, one country that's still very skeptical of al-Shara, that's Israel, right across the border there next to Syria. They view him as still the head of an Islamist government, not as threatening as the previous government, of course, or previous government Syria's had, but still very skeptical of him, saying, I don't know if I trust him just because he put on a suit and tie. And so not the most pleased by this move by the American government, at least not yet.
Speaking of Israel, there were some additional headlines out of this trip. The Trump administration earlier on Tuesday entered into several new agreements with the government of Saudi Arabia, including on military cooperation. The White House said Trump secured a $600 billion commitment from Saudi Arabia to invest in the United States, including an expansive defense partnership valued at nearly $142 billion. The president announcing major weapons sales, including some with potential nuclear capabilities. President Trump also expressed his dream that Saudi Arabia would join the Abraham Accords, which are the treaties that he had helped negotiate during the first term between several Arab nations and Israel. But he indicated that Saudi Arabia would only normalize relations with Israel when it's ready. Take a listen.
It's my fervent hope, wish, and even my dream that Saudi Arabia, a place I have such respect for, especially over the last fairly short period of time, what you've been able to do, but we'll soon be joining the Abraham Accords. I think it'll be a tremendous tribute to your country, and it will be something that's really going to be very important for the future of the Middle East. But you'll do it in your own time, and that's what I want, and that's what you want, and that's the way it's going to be.
So, Moshe, this is a big deal because the former thinking was that all of these economic deals and military deals with Saudi Arabia hinged on Saudi Arabia normalizing relations with Israel, but no more.
No, Trump's doing his own thing here. You know, as far as Donald Trump is concerned, he wants to remake the world. He sees in Saudi Arabia and the Saudi Arabian crown prince, Mohammed bin Salman. By the way, he's crown prince because his father's technically still alive, but no one's seen him for a while, so they kind of assume that he's not really capable of being in public right now. He has this relationship with MBS, Mohammed bin Salman. He sees Saudi Arabia as this linchpin in the Middle East. So he's going to make these deals. And ultimately, if countries that were going to be a part of those deals snooze, they lose as far as he's concerned. And right now, one of the key things for the Saudis is they will not make a deal with the Israelis until they see a very specific path to a Palestinian state. Because in particular, those Abraham Accords you just mentioned, the governments did them because they wanted to make those deals and they make sense. But the people still very much in many of these Arab countries, very anti-Israel. And so there's a difficulty here these kingdoms have in striking these deals while the people view the Israelis very negatively. So ultimately here, Trump looks like he's going to keep forging ahead here. Now, ultimately, all these countries pretty in line with each other, Jill. You know, one thing that you mentioned, that multi-billion dollar deal with the Saudis, a lot of it has to do with the Saudis buying weapons from the U.S. Why are they buying so many weapons? Because they view Iran as a threat. Who else views Iran as a threat? The Israelis. So even though officially there's no agreement, there's a lot of behind-the-scenes cooperation between the intelligence community, between those countries, between the militaries behind the scenes. They do have joint exercises. And so there is that. But the message for the Israelis, like the message for NATO, the EU, Canada, Korea, Taiwan, is that even if we have good relations with you, ultimately Trump will hit the reset button on you, and you may need to restart things over and over again because he's very transactional and very much will do whatever he deems is the right move for what he views as the U.S., also for himself. And so you will see this continue today as Trump makes his flight over to Qatar. another key Gulf country. We do not expect that he'll be getting the plane today, Jill. Remember, we've been telling you about that the past couple of days, that the Qataris want to give him a plane. He very much wants that plane. That plane is very controversial. I don't think he'll be flying home in the plane, but expect to hear more about this plane today, that he wants to make the new Air Force One. Also, as you mentioned, he may meet the Syrian leader in Qatar, which again would be a very significant moment given what has unfolded there the past, 50 years. Jill, one thing I should add to this story that is just so remarkable, and I had to watch the clip twice to make sure it was real. Trump's walkout music for his speech in Saudi Arabia yesterday was Lee Greenwood's "God Bless the USA, Proud to be an American." He stood there for the entirety of the song and made all the Saudi diplomats and American diplomats in this room of like a couple thousand people stand for "God Bless the USA." And then, not to be outdone, after the speech, he thanks the Saudi crown prince, and then blaring from the speakers in the room, YMCA by the Village People. This is the walkout music. I mean, these are his favorite songs. This is what he does for campaign rallies in like Pennsylvania or Florida. Never been seen before in a U.S. foreign policy speech in Riyadh, Saudi Arabia. The President of the United States walking out to Proud to be an American, leaving to YMCA. The only thing missing from the YMCA thing, Trump didn't dance, his normal dance on the walkout. But still, it shows you this closeness between them. One thing I should add, the Saudis actually brought out a mobile McDonald's truck to greet Trump, so he could have McDonald's at the site of the speech if he wanted.
Another story that we're keeping an eye on from the region, Gaza. Israel targeted Hamas's leader in Gaza, Mohammed Sinwar, in a major Israeli airstrike at a hospital in the southern Gaza Strip on Tuesday afternoon. Mohammed, by the way, is the brother of Yahya Sinwar, who was the mastermind of the October 7th attack.
Yeah, so this is the latest as of late on Tuesday night. Obviously, we'll wait to hear more here. But Sinwar effectively took over when the Israelis assassinated his brother last year. And so they've been looking to get him as well. Will he have suffered the same fate? If he did, that is the third Hamas leader taken out in just a year now. A very dangerous job, Jill, taking over Hamas these days. But we will see what comes of all of that. The Israelis, one of their issues with Mohammed is he is very difficult to negotiate with and has made coming to a final deal here when it comes to the remaining hostages and ending this war very, very challenging.
From the current president to the former President Biden has been out of office for just a few months. And now the bombshell books about who knew what and when about his deteriorating health and mental state about to hit store shelves. And that means some of the big headlines are starting to leak. CNN's Jake Tapper and Axios's Alex Thompson wrote their new book, Original Sin. It is out May 20th. They say Joe Biden's physical deterioration was so severe in 2023 and 2024 that advisors privately discussed the possibility that he would need to use a wheelchair if he had won re-election. Biden aides believed that it was politically untenable to have him use a wheelchair during the re-election campaign. The discussions reflect the extent of the president's declining health, particularly the significant degeneration of his spine.
Jill, one interesting thing in this book, and again, this is the latest book related to Biden. This will be out next Tuesday. This is the beginning of the rollout. So expect by the time you wake up this morning that new details will be out. They're going to try to trickle this out to create peak interest for Original Sin. One of the things we learned so far in this first section is how much Biden's doctor was concerned about his deteriorating health and that he was urging people at the White House to build even more rest time into Biden's schedule. Now, that comes, as we already know, and we learned even while Biden was president, that his sort of peak effectiveness was between 10 a.m. and 4 p.m. Outside those hours, they would see a lot of verbal miscues, him become forgetful in a variety of ways. And so there was just a lot of concern related to both his mental but also his physical health. You might remember that fall that he took at the Air Force Academy in June of 2023 when he tripped over some sandbags. After that, they tried to do things to really ensure he would never fall again, realizing that these optics were going to be really bad for re-election. So they were setting up more handrails. They moved him from those big staircases that you take up to Air Force One to the short staircase at the bottom of the plane. They would have him wear sneakers. Whenever he was walking, they would have a bunch of people around him, both to block cameras from like really seeing how bad his walk was, but also to catch him if he fell. Now, some of those things, to Alex Thompson's credit, who's the co-author of this book, he was reporting on for Axios a couple of years ago, one of the few reporters who was willing to challenge the White House and report things that were negative about Biden's health. Jill, one of the things they reveal in this book is just how much Biden was forgetting people's names, staring blankly at people he had known for a decade, becoming disoriented and incoherent when he was fatigued, and again, fatigued like in the like late afternoon hours.
Yeah, among those people, Biden couldn't recognize George Clooney at a Democratic fundraiser in Los Angeles during his 2024 campaign, which apparently left the Hollywood star, quote, shaken to his core. How dare he not recognize me?
Jill, I saw Clooney recently on Broadway, and he's dyed his hair black to play Edward R. Murrow in Good Night and Good Luck. I mean, albeit it was hard to recognize him that way, but like, keep in mind, this was, Clooney with his normal gray hair look in Hollywood in June when Biden didn't recognize him.
And he was co-hosting the fundraiser.
Like, this is some basic stuff.
So it was weeks after that incident. If you remember, Clooney had wrote an op-ed saying that he loved Joe Biden, but that it was simply time for him to step aside. Moshe, we have been posting about these revelations on the Instagram page, and the reaction's been pretty intense.
Yes, you have a bunch of Democrats who are like, Moshe, why are you spending time on this? We have bigger issues right now. You need to spend more time covering Donald Trump and what Donald Trump is doing to this country. So that's been the reaction from some of you on the left. And then some of you on the right are like, you guys in the media are ridiculous trying to save face now. We always knew Biden, had these issues, and you guys didn't do enough. And this is too little, too late. And this is why I will never trust the media again. So those are among the hundreds of messages I get whenever we post a new revelation about Joe Biden here. I do think, folks, for the record, it is important to learn these things. And the fact that there were open conversations within White House senior staff about Joe Biden being the first president since, FDR to have to use a wheelchair. And the fact that they were still trying to run him for president. Pretty significant. Tells you a lot about what was going on in the inner circle. And we recently did an interview with another author, Chris Whipple, who has a new book out with other Biden revelations. That's on the feed, so you can scroll back and see that from a couple of weeks ago about just, how they were working in the Biden White House to really keep things not only from the media, not from the public, not from senior Democrats, but even fellow White House staff who would not get access to Joe Biden here. And I think holding them to account here is super important. That is one thing the media does. Certainly the media itself should be held accountable. And some of you are good at doing that. And so, I think that it's a remarkable revelation here. There are going to be more here in the coming days. And I think we can chew gum and walk at the same time. Isn't the expression, Jill? And rubber
It's usually
bellies.
walk and chew gum.
Walk and chew gum.
But
okay.
we could chew gum and walk also.
Chew gum and walk. We're going to do all of it in whatever order we choose, both covering everything Trump is
Technically,
up
you're
to.
doing it at the same time, so it shouldn't matter.
We're doing all of it. We're going to
first.
chew gum. We're going to walk. We're going to drink some water. We're going to eat candy at the Sweet and Snacks Expo. We're going to do all of it. So we're going to cover Trump. We're going to cover these revelations. Joe Biden certainly did not help himself last week on The View when he literally got the question from the host of like, hey, what do you make of these books saying you weren't all there at the end? And he was like, let me tell you about COVID and what happened during COVID. And then Jill had to step in to answer the question, sort of reinforcing some of the things we're learning in this book.
Okay, time for the speed read from Bloomberg. United Airlines expects flight reductions at Newark Airport to linger through the summer and into the fall as the crucial travel hub struggles to recover from air traffic control glitches that have already disrupted hundreds of flights. The airline is trying to reassure customers, sending an email saying it is absolutely safe to fly into and out of Newark. I don't know, Moshe, is that an email that makes you feel better? Like, shouldn't that be obvious?
Listen, I think that they're certainly seeing cancellations, Jill. I heard from a Mo News community member that they flew from Florida to Newark in the last 24 hours, and their plane had like 4 people on it.
Well, there is a lot at stake for United because United accounts for about 68% of the flights at the airport. So the FAA is looking to cut flights at Newark for months. The agency currently wants to allow about 56 flights per hour. That's while construction on one of the airport's runways is underway. The airport typically has a capacity for over 70 per hour if the weather allows it.
So just to give you a sense there, over a typical day, you're talking about like 200 fewer flights going in and out of Newark Airport. Think about the amount of planes, the amount of people that are flying there, and also the bottom line there for the airlines.
United says, quote, hopefully as we'll get through the summer and fall when staffing with the FAA improves, we can increase the number. United's already cut 35 daily round trips at Newark following that April 28th technology outage. The Transportation Secretary, Sean Duffy, saying it takes about a year to a year and a half to train an air traffic controller. So again, it's not looking like this is a problem that is going away anytime soon.
Yeah, and one of the issues they have here is it's not as simple as transferring air traffic controllers from other airports. Air traffic controllers have very unique knowledge of the airports, how the runways work, how things operate. And so you can't just like, hey, fly up 3 air traffic controllers from Miami or Dallas or Chicago or wherever. You know, there's very specific knowledge that you need to have. And so we have been learning recently that due to the fact that some of the air traffic controllers are out on trauma leave due to some of the tech issues that they faced lately, that there was a situation earlier this week where in the evening hours they had 3 air traffic controllers in what is typically an area that holds 14. And one of them, allegedly, according to one report, was a trainee. So I think they're dealing with this shortage. They are hoping that this will be resolved in the next couple of months. But months is not weeks. Weeks is not hours. And so there's going to be this meeting between the FAA, Transportation Department, and the airlines here saying, hey, everybody, we really need you to cancel even more flights here so we can manage the situation at Newark until we can get up to proper staffing.
From CNBC, inflation was slightly lower than expected in April as President Trump's tariffs just began hitting the slowing U.S. economy. This is according to a Labor Department report Tuesday. The Consumer Price Index, which measures the costs for a broad range of goods and services, rose slightly, just about 0.2% for the month, which puts the 12-month inflation rate at 2.3%, its lowest level since February of 2021. The monthly readings were a bit higher than in March, though price increases are still well off their highs from about 3 years ago. By the way, the Fed's target is 2%, so 2.3%, not too far from what they're thinking.
Right, but at the end of the day, as we like to remind you here on this podcast, is that while it's down from previous months or down from the previous year, things are still headed up. And so just to give you a reference point, April 2025 versus April 2024, here are the price differences in some bigger categories. Eggs, despite the fact that they're down, still up 50% over a year ago. Instant coffee up 14% over last April. Ground beef, 10%. Coffee, 10%. They count coffee different from instant coffee. Actually, they also count roasted coffee different, Jill. Roasted coffee up 9%. So they got roasted coffee, they got instant coffee. No matter how you take your coffee, Jill, up basically 10% over a year ago. Apples up 7%, ham up 5%, milk up 4% over a year ago. So the good news, things are slowing down. The bad news, there is still some of this tariff shock, not as bad as we previously expected, but still at the end of the day, there's basically a 10% tariff on the world. So look for prices to go up if they haven't already gone up on a number of products. And then the China tariffs, yes, they're not 145%, but they're still 30% on most things. In some cases, 54% on items under $800. And so you still see, a lot of tariff potential impact here. And those are numbers we will see in June when they give us the May readings. We're still preparing here for a potential inflation blip. We'll see how much of a blip it is when we get our next reading.
From Axios, a Los Angeles judge late Tuesday resentenced Lyle and Eric Menendez, the brothers who were convicted of killing their parents in 1989. The new sentences make the pair eligible for parole in this high-profile case. The brothers have until now been serving sentences of life in prison without parole. LA County Superior Court Judge Michael Jessic said during the hearing that he would resentence both men to 50 years to life in prison. Even though the men have only served about 36 years, that new sentence means that they could potentially get out of prison soon.
Yeah, because both men were under 26 years old at the time they murdered their parents, which would make them eligible for parole immediately. So again, don't be confused by the headline that they've now been resentenced to 50 years. Ultimately, this new sentencing has a parole element to it, which means they can get out immediately. Just to refresh for all of you, if you haven't seen Monsters on Netflix or the Netflix documentary, The Menendez Brothers. There's a whole bunch of docs that have come out recently. The brothers were originally sentenced back in 1996 to life in prison without parole for murdering their father, Jose, and their mother, Kitty Menendez, in the Beverly Hills home back in 1989. The brothers were 18 and 21 at the time of the killings. They had a first trial. They eventually had to have a second trial. And it's in that second trial that they were convicted. And it's in their second trial they were not able to show evidence or present evidence because of the way the judge made the rules in the second trial of the amount of abuse, sexual abuse, that they suffered at the hands of their parents. So ultimately here, there has been this movement, and you have seen a number of people saying, listen, they've served their time, and there is a backstory here to why they murdered their parents in the way that they did. Now, the judge chimed in on this yesterday. He said, I'm not saying they should be released. It's not for me to decide. But I do believe that they have been in prison for 35 years and they should have a chance at release. So this begins that potential process here. And this began with the LADA last year. And then the more recent LADA who's taken over, he opposed this because he said these brothers still don't show any remorse for murdering their parents 35 years ago. Nonetheless, the judge has made them eligible for parole here. Jill, I was kidding before the podcast that I feel that like these guys are totally going to get out and they're totally going to have like a blockbuster podcast themselves, like the Lyle and Eric show. Like I see it coming to us very soon.
Yeah, I don't think that's a joke. I think that's actually very much going to happen.
Like these guys will get their own like big streaming deal. I mean, we've seen it with like Anna Delvey and some of these other like, and at Fire Festival 2, some of these guys who come out of prison and like, we're ready. We're like, okay, we're ready for the Menendez show. What do you guys in 2025? Like, what are the Menendez brothers like? What does their package look like in terms of like the media, social media? Like, what's crazy is when they got put in prison in the early 90s, like there was like cell phones were still new. So these guys are coming into an era of the internet, social media, cell phones, etc. Like, are they going to blow up on TikTok? Like, I'm genuinely curious about Menendez brothers after being in prison for 35 years.
And it comes just as the Golden Globes announced that there's going to be this new category for podcasts.
Can you imagine?
Could you imagine?
The first winner of the Golden Globe for Best Podcast, Lyle and Eric Menendez.
Moshe, stranger things have happened.
Okay. I think we're getting ahead of ourselves. Maybe not in the first year, but maybe by the second year, Jill, you might be right.
Okay, some business news from Bloomberg. AMC, the world's largest cinema chain, will slash the price of a movie ticket in the United States by half on Wednesdays. It's a bid to draw more people to the theaters between the weekends. The company will start rolling out the discounts starting on July 9th. The all-day deal will be based on the normal adult evening ticket price. Premiums for large screen formats will still apply, but those tickets will also be 50% off.
You still got to find a babysitter for Wednesday nights, Jill, if you want to go to the cinema with your partner. Jill, as far as movies you might want to see on a Wednesday night for half price this summer, the following movies are set to come out. Let me know if you're excited about any of these. First of all, the Minecraft movie apparently is crushing it right now. And so Minecraft is still out. We also have Lilo and Stitch, the new live action version of it. Mission Impossible 8, which they say is the final Mission Impossible. I don't take Tom Cruise at his word on that one. I think he'll definitely do another one after this. But there's going to be a new Mission Impossible, a new Wes Anderson movie. In June, there will be a new Dakota Johnson Matchmaker movie. In July, we'll have yet another Jurassic World film called Jurassic World Rebirth, a Superman and Fantastic Four, The First Steps. And then August, we'll have the new version of Freakier Friday. And then apparently they're bringing back Naked Gun with Liam Neeson. Remember Naked Gun movies from the 90s back then?
I do. You said to just shout if anything caught my eye.
Yeah.
So far, not really. Maybe the Freakier Friday? Maybe.
Freakier Friday. Yeah,
they don't make movies for my demographic anymore. My stuff's all on streaming.
It comes straight to streaming. I know. So listen, I wish AMC the best. Jill, one thing that I can't replicate at home, movie theater popcorn.
Well, speaking of snacks, Moshe, now to some sweet news. As we've been talking about, you are in Indianapolis for the Sweets and Snacks Expo. So tell us about some of the big snacking trends.
Oh, Jill, are there some trends here at the convention? First of all, as I mentioned at the top, Dubai chocolate is all the rage here. Small and large, every booth I go to, everyone seems to have their own version of a Dubai chocolate. For those of you unfamiliar with this is blown up in the TikTok space. I've heard from a number of you who are like, my kids are obsessed with it. All the teens are talking about this on TikTok. So Dubai chocolate entails pistachio and what they call kataifi, which is like phyllo dough. It has like a crunch to it. A shredded phyllo pastry is put inside the chocolate along with pistachio, and there you have it, Dubai chocolate. This apparently all got started just a couple years ago, back in 2022. A Dubai-based chocolate company had a British-Egyptian founder, Sarah Hamouda, who apparently was pregnant at the time, and to satisfy her pregnancy cravings, wanted to figure out a combination of kanafe and pistachio, kanafe being a dessert from the Middle East. And so she basically created something called Cannot Get Kanaf of It. Get it? Kanafe of it?
I like that.
And so a TikTok influencer made a video eating the bar, and like it blew up. It went viral online. And so it led to this whole idea of Dubai chocolate. Now, that original chocolate company isn't the one that like is the leader in the world in Dubai chocolate. Everyone has basically created their own version of Dubai chocolate because the recipe not that difficult to replicate. I'm seeing it big and small firms, Dubai chocolate spread, Dubai chocolate. There's like very gourmet chocolate makers that have made their own version. There are sort of the mainstream ones that are doing their own version of Dubai chocolate. So if you haven't seen it or haven't heard of it over the next few months, you most certainly will. Another big trend line we're seeing, gummies you can unwrap. So they have like gummies with little gummies inside them, and then you can eat the outside if you want to, but you can unwrap the gummy to find the gummy on the inside of the other gummy.
Wait, what do you mean? So there's like
a little
gummy shell and then
it's like a cube. It's like a gummy cube, and then inside the gummy cube is like another like gummy of a different color.
Okay.
So it's like a gummy within a gummy.
On gummy. Okay.
Yeah, gummy on gummy, and you unwrap the gummy. You can still eat the gummy wrap, so that you take off the wrapper, and then you have the gummy wrap, and then you have the other gummy. There's a lot of gummy in there, but gummy inside the gummy. That's a thing that apparently came out of Asia. I passed by the Sour Patch Kid stand, Jill, because like, obviously they have glow in the dark Sour Patch Kid candies that they showed me with like a black light. I guess, I don't know, if I was 7, I might be more excited about it. But I will say this, very tasty Sour Patch Kids. They have new flavors. They always seem to have new flavors out there. Then I went over to Reese's to see what they've done with the peanut butter cup this year. Apparently, they always have new ideas about what you put inside the peanut butter cup. Jill, this year, the Reese's Peanut Butter and Jelly Cup.
Interesting. Did you try it? How was it?
Did I try it? I tried it. I will say, satisfying. But am I gonna, like, next time I have a choice, OG for me, OG peanut butter cup.
Totally.
Like, I don't need the jelly in there. I'm not seeking the jelly. I don't hate the jelly, but like, just FYI, it's going to be there, and you'll probably see it on store shelves very soon. If you're not into the sweet, you're more into the savory. Pickle flavors, all the rage. Pickle pretzels, pickle potato chips, everything with a pickle taste. Was noticing a lot of that. And again, I'm not a professional snacker. In that, like, I don't follow all these trends. I'm just seeing like what I'm seeing as like a regular person. And so some of you may be like, Mosh, that was totally last year's trend. You might, in fact, be right. But as far as I'm concerned, it is new to me. And so I will then tell you about it. So that's something. One other thing, Jill, I'm seeing a lot of here is like short-term, limited-time seasonal snacks. And so that's a thing among these companies is like, for a limited time, we're rolling this out for the summer, or we're rolling this out around Halloween, or we're rolling this out around Christmas. So look out for limited time snacks. A number of the things that we've been putting up on the Mo News Premium account will be coming out either in the coming weeks, coming months, or maybe this fall. So some of you have been disappointed when I posted some of these snacks on Premium, like, Mosh, I want to buy that. That sounds awesome. Well, they're not out yet, so just stay tuned, everybody. And Jill, I did get to try the Best of Show yesterday. I had mentioned on yesterday's podcast, I attended the Most Innovative New Product Awards. So all the new candies, chocolates, pretzels, etc. Judges vote on them. I went to the number 1 Best in Show, and I tried the matcha latte popcorn from a company called Bell's out of Texas. Bell's matcha latte popcorn. It did not disappoint, Jill. Now, that's one that'll be out on store shelves, not right away, but in the coming months.
And did it taste like matcha?
It tasted delicious and had like it had a matcha flavor to it.
Interesting.
Yeah. They also, by the way, speaking of Dubai chocolate, Bell's has a Dubai chocolate popcorn because these days everyone but Mo News has a Dubai chocolate. Jill, we need to launch our Dubai chocolate, Mo News Dubai chocolate.
You don't have to twist my arm on that one.
It'll make I can think about the taglines already. Like, if the news is bumming you out, at least you can listen with some chocolate.
No, I mean, it's perfect. Like, yeah. I cannot wait. This is a great assignment.
Well, Jill, I'm here in Indianapolis. They have like the companies, but they also have the manufacturers. And so I can find like a cocoa provider. I can find like a factory here. Like, I'll have it done in 24 hours. All right, now time for On This Day in History. We begin on this day in 1796. An early smallpox vaccine is tested by a guy named Edward Jenner. It would become known as the world's first vaccination on this day in history, nearly 240 years ago today. On this day in 1850, the first U.S. patent for a dishwashing machine was issued. A guy named Joel Houghton patented a wooden machine with a hand-turned wheel that splashed water on dishes. That still required a lot of literal handiwork there. 45 years later, a woman named Josephine Cochran would actually invent the first more modern dishwasher. She would display it at the Columbian World Exposition in Chicago in 1893. And she basically said to people, if no one else is going to invent a dishwashing machine, I'm going to do it myself. And she did. And she was the first one to use water pressure instead of scrubbers to actually clean dishes.
Thank you, Josephine, from the bottom of my heart.
We all are very grateful to Josephine for that invention. All right, on this day in 1948, the state of Israel was proclaimed the first Jewish state in 2,000 years. David Ben-Gurion becomes the first premier of the country. There were two previous kingdoms of Israel back 2,000 years ago. This was the first modern one. And so that happened on this day in history in the Middle East. On this day in 1973, Skylab, America's first space station, is successfully launched into orbit around the Earth. And we end here with a bit of pop culture. On this day in 2003, Crazy in Love by Jay-Z and Beyonce is released. And Jill, two huge TV series finales on this day in 1998. The Seinfeld cast goes to jail in the series finale of Seinfeld.
It was a little harsh, I thought.
Jill still taking issue with the series finale of Seinfeld 27 years later.
It was a good way to work in all of the different characters throughout the years of the series, but I didn't think they deserved it. I didn't think they deserved jail time. It's not a spoiler anymore, right? It's been 27 years.
No, I think people have had to see the finale. Jill, my favorite clip is, have you seen the clip of Jerry Seinfeld doing Larry King on CNN a few years later?
Yes.
Larry King was already kind of getting up there in age. And he's like, so Jerry, like, it's been a couple years since Seinfeld was canceled. And Jerry's like, what are you talking about? Seinfeld wasn't canceled. He goes, oh, so you chose to take that off of TV? He's like, yes, Larry. I chose
number one show, top rated, 100 million people watched the final episode.
He's like, why are you calling it canceled, Larry King? Anyway, a fun clip. It always comes up in my algorithm.
Same with me, which means we're probably watching the same.
We have a similar
things.
algo. Yes, we have a similar
but Larry
algo.
King was like, "Why are you getting so bent out of shape?" And Jerry's like, "Because it's a really big difference."
There's a big difference. Like, can't when you say the show was canceled, it implies that people stopped wanting to watch it. Larry King. All right, Jill. One other series finale on this day just a few years later. On this day, 22 years ago, Dawson's Creek went off the air.
I don't want to wait. I did it already, I know, but I can't help it. Does anyone think Dawson's Creek without singing that theme song?
No, it's iconic. It's iconic, Jill Wagner. Fun fact about Jason Vanderbeek. He has 6 kids, Jill. Dawson got busy after that show ended.
Moshe, I think his name is James.
You're right, Joe. You're right, Jill.
Jason.
Yeah, it's not Jason Vanderbeek. It's James
feels
Vanderbeek.
Weird.
It's been a while since the last time I thought about Dawson's Creek.
You're forgiven, Moshe.
But by the way, fun fact: what does Vanderbeek mean? From the creek.
Ooh.
It means from the creek in Dutch. Anyway, just fun fact about James Vanderbeek. For those of you who want to play an elder millennial trivia, I'm here for you.
Don't say you don't learn anything on the Mo News podcast. It's impossible.
Like for example, I learned today that it wasn't Jason Vanderbeek; it was James Vanderbeek, which I probably already knew, but it's been a long. Jill, I ate a lot of snacks today.
All right, everyone. That's a wrap. Thanks for listening to the Mo News Podcast. If you like what you hear, share this with your friends, please. It will help us grow. Follow us, subscribe so you don't miss an episode, and review us in the App Store.
And a special shout out to the Mo News Premium members from Indianapolis who met up with me last night. Good conversation with the community here. Keep in mind, when you join Mo News Premium, you get a lot, including meetups when we travel across the country. So join today, mo.news/premium.
You can meet the big man himself.
Well, huge
That's
sell.
you, Mosh.
Great.
Especially
I was curious who you're referring to there. Thank you, Jill. Thank you for that hard sell.
We gotta go.
Thanks for listening to the Mo News Podcast. Have a fantastic day. I hope you enjoyed.